First off, a Wall Street trader and an oil sheik got into a fight. Who won? You guys did.
A Wall Street trader and an oil sheik got into a fight. Who won? While undoubtedly this statement is true and is the aim for many companies, this is a mere byproduct of how the system is set up to begin with. Next comes the lie that they really want us to believe.
This is to remind you that a lot of the spend comes from the high-paying guys, the whales, and the very best way to get these guys to spend is to get two rich, competitive guys to fight each other and tell them, I'll give you a slight upside if you pay me.
A lot of the spending comes from high-paying guys, the whales. There's always someone that's spending more than me. While I spend nothing, there's someone that is spending thousands of dollars. A convenient truth that shades a lie. While it's true there are thousands upon tens of thousands of players in many player bases that spend tens of thousands of dollars a year, there are many more fish than there are whales. And when you start to average it out, we're the ones that are really fitting the bill. Now, you may not agree with my math, but if a game has an active player base of 1 million players, and 5% of that player base, the top 5% of spenders, are spending average of $10,000 a year, that comes out to about $500 million. Accounting for free-to-play and players that spend less, if we average that spending across 95% of the rest of the player base, let's say it's a tenth of the spending, $1,000, $83 per month. That's $950 million. While whales may provide a lot, it's the fish that these companies are feeding on. And there's always more fish than there are whales in the ocean. Now, this isn't necessarily the lie that I've come to discuss. I think this is something that's rather common knowledge by now, especially when we see a game like Genshin Impact maintaining over 60 million active players in a month, with its worst monthly revenues being $53.8 million, grossing over $4 billion since its release in 2020. While these player counts may be inflated because many active player counters are incorrect, you can't argue with the revenue. Genshin Impact brings in more than many of the AAA titans that rule the industry. And this money isn't just coming from whales, it's coming from the fish. And what I want to talk about today is how the fish are slowly being caught and squeezed for all they're worth. Now, I'm going to tell you again, do not run with the math or the estimates or the numbers, because they may be gross overestimates and averages of what true player counts and spending looks like. But what I'm trying to do is prove a point, and that point is that there is more of us than there are of them, and that's just a natural truth. There are more of us low-income people than there are of these rich folk that are spending tens of thousands, if not more, on these games. And that puts these gaming companies in a really awkward position, because while they love that money that they get from the whales, they want more of it from us, because at the end of the day, we are actually the ones that are supporting these games, both financially and also feeding the whales by proxy. And how are you going to do that? How am I going to get these small spenders, these low-income earners, to spend more money on my games? They're only spending $5, $10, $20 a month on my games. Well, that's easy. You just steal it. Literally. And I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about the lack thereof. Because we're not buying the content. We're buying the currency. The psychology involved in microtransactions in video games delves deep into the intricate ways that developers harness human behavior to maximize their profits. By now, you've seen videos like Let's Go Whaling, a game developer conference on how to monetize games. We've heard EA's old CEO, John Riccitiello, say he wants to charge us $5 to reload our guns. And we know that publishers and developers invest in casinos to collect data on how to create habits and addictions. Now, while I'm not going to talk about microtransactions per se, I think that drum's been well hammered, I think it's important to keep in mind that everything in the world of microtransactions is meant to manipulate the player in some way. And while I don't think we should or could fight microtransactions as a whole, I think we stand a chance to fight against the most predatory devices that these companies use. The introduction of premium currency in virtual stores for purchasing in-game content has gradually evolved over time, and while I'm not going to go through the entire history of its first appearance, I do want to point out where it came from. One of the earliest examples of popularized premium currency was Farmville, a a social sim developed by Zynga and released on Facebook back in 2009. In Farmville, players could purchase virtual currency called Farm Cash using real money. This virtual currency could then be used to buy various in-game items, such as decorations, buildings, and even speed up the growth of their virtual crops. Farmville garnered massive popularity and paved the way for many of the free-to-play modeled games that we see today. And it did that with microtransactions leveraged by premium currency. A free-to-play Facebook game in 2009 made $235 million in its first year. I still remember it clear as day. I was working at GameStop at the time when we first put the rack on top of the counter. GameStop was one of my first jobs. And we laughed about it. We thought it was ridiculous. Who's going to be buying these? And the next thing we knew, they started flying off the shelves. People were buying them every single day. But it wasn't just people. It was a specific group of people. It was moms. Moms loved Facebook. They absolutely died for it. They bought all of those cards, spending hundreds of dollars a week, if not every month, on those Farmville cards. And we didn't know how bad it would get. We didn't know how far this would go. And nor did I realize something else, and it's something that I want you to ask yourself. Why were the moms the ones that were buying those cards? Why were the moms the ones that were playing Farmville to begin with? Now, there are a few ways that developers commonly will weaponize premium currencies specifically. The first being false buying power and also fear of missing out, which often prompts players to overspend and acquire more currency than is needed for the items that they desire. You see examples of this across mobile gaming with far more prevalence, which means it's not far off from being more common in premium games. What I'm specifically talking about is discounts on currency, increased currency for standard pricing, or buy one get one pricing if you're playing games like Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail. You see X crystals is worth $29.99, but if you buy right now, your brain is tricked into thinking that you're getting $60 for $30. You're associating value for value, when in fact, the currency that you're buying doesn't actually have any inherent value. It's actually the content that you're buying with it that does. I'm going to retrace that because I feel like it might be a little bit difficult to follow. But from my point of view, the currency that we buy doesn't actually have any inherent value. It just serves as a mediator that unlocks the content that does provide value to us. In my mind, I'm buying 10 spins on a gacha character, or a cosmetic in Call of Duty. This currency itself holds no value to us, and that's done on purpose. Virtual currencies create a sort of psychological disconnection between real money and in-game purchases, which makes it far easier for players to be able to spend more money without realizing the financial impact of their choices. Using a game like Genshin Impact as an example, if I bought X amount of crystals, when I turn it into this currency, then I turn it into wishes, and then I turn that into a chance for the character that I want, this is obfuscation. This obfuscation, coupled with the convenience of modern gaming where it only takes 1 or 2 taps of a screen to make a purchase, no actual hard currency is in your hands, so you feel less connected to the transaction. How much is one spin? Now, I realize this all sounds rather incoherent, and that's because it's supposed to be. It's designed, it's geniusly designed to be that way. So difficult for us to even really be able to explain what the exact problem is. But I'm going to try to break it down the best I can. If I buy $30 worth of crystals and I spend those crystals on wishes or chance to get the character that I want, and I don't get that character, well then, what were the crystals actually worth? Well, they were only worth the odd bits and ends that I got as a result of not getting the character that I wanted. Well, that doesn't really add up to the $30 that I spent or the $30 worth of value that I had in my mind. Well, let's say I do get the character and I spent hundreds or thousands of dollars to get that character. Let's say down the road, Genshin Impact nerfs the character. Well, I don't have any leg to stand on. Let's say they remove the character. I still don't have any leg to stand on. And while you might be sitting there going, well, we would push back. We would fight against something like that. Of course we would. No, you wouldn't, because you couldn't. I'll give you an example why. Destiny 2 once had players that bought digital currency, that bought in-game content that was later removed from the game as a part of their condensing of the game because it had gotten so large and incoherent over time. Those characters lost their content permanently. and there's nothing they could do about it. Because at the end of the day, no matter what legal body you have behind you, when you go to that developer to try to fight it, they're going to say, we gave him what they paid for. He bought silver. He bought crystals. Now, manipulation and confusion or lack of ownership aside, let's talk about what really shows that there is a need for regulation. A fact that actually proves that these currencies are plainly made to steal from the customer. When you buy a digital currency, did the amount that you buy only cover the item that you wanted to purchase, or was it more than you needed? What I consider the most vilest act in all of gaming microtransactions is the use of what we will call leftovers. The item that you want is 1,000 points, but you can only buy currencies in packs of 600, 1,400, or 2,500. You could buy 2 packs of 600, but that's going to leave you with 200 points left over. You could spend the extra couple of dollars and just make one single purchase, but you'll still have more left over. This utilizes 2 very sinister forms of manipulation, both sunk cost fallacy and convenience. Your brain doesn't want to make 2 purchases. That feels like overspending. You'd rather click once because it takes less time to get what you want and it feels like you're spending less. Furthermore, the leftover currency is a hook. A player is more likely to keep spending to justify the perceived value of the currency, that currency that they've already invested themselves in. You want that balance to be clear. You want it to be zero. You don't want to leave money on the table, but they want you to, and they know that you will. And if you don't, that means that you spent way more money than you initially deemed necessary. Now, the funny thing is, you might be asking yourself, why do they even sell any of these lower currencies to begin with? I mean, most of them can't even buy the things that you need to buy from the store. And that's the worst part. That's what we call inclusivity or sales skimming. See, you don't want to just sell products to the people that can afford it. You want to sell products to the people who can't as well. While someone who's more loose with their spending or has access to more expendable income has no problem buying currency packs in $30 or $60 or $100 worth, there are low-income earners who are far more scrupulous with their spending. And they can't leave them out. They need their money too. They need all of the money. I have seen tons of videos of people complaining about microtransactions, different games piecemealing content to us back and forth, all of these different AAA titles wanting to have live service models to be able to squeeze us for every cent that we have. And while most of those things are bad in one way, shape, or form, this is abhorrent. This is designed for everyone, according to the ESRB. No matter who you are, there is a microtransaction that is set for you to be able to steal money from you because we perceive value for the content that we want, not the currency that's there. But that's where the ownership actually lies, is the currency that we're buying. And we're spending $15 for 1,400 points, but we can only spend 1,000 points on the things that we actually want. 400 points left over, $4, $5 is whatever you want to equate to it. That is free money that these companies are taking from us. And it just blows my mind that this is not something that we're talking about more, that our focus isn't fully applied to, because this is something we should be fighting against, because it's actual theft. It is a system specifically designed to take more money than is actually necessary for the things that we want. These systems are designed for the most vulnerable people in our society. They are designed for the lonely, the ones that feel the most comfortable flexing in an online space, or the people that can really only afford to flex in an online space. If you can't afford to buy a house or a car, at least you can afford to buy a skin in Fortnite. They're designed for children, the ones that have no idea how much money is actually worth or the items that they're buying in the first place. They're designed for the easily addicted, the people that are addicted to games of chance. And you could be sitting there thinking to yourself, I am none of these people or any others that you could name, and you're wrong. You still are the target, because similar to the Farmville moms that I brought up at the beginning of this video, why are the Farmville moms buying Farmville cash? It's because they're trying to fill a void. They're bored. And they're searching for a hit of dopamine in something that's already supposed to give it to them in the first place. You're playing a game. How much more do you need? We aren't getting rid of microtransactions, of that much I can be certain. However, I am blown away that charging players for in-game currencies is still allowed to be legal. Developers are literally taking more money than is necessary just for you to either leave that balance in their pocket or to pressure you further into buying more things in the future. Mismatched pricing and premium currencies serve no value to the customer and only serve as a means for developers to extract more than necessary from the customer. So why is this allowed? Well, it's because we agree to it legally. Every term of service for every game that you play consents to the developer being able to set the price and adjust prices and values associated to those games' purchases. When you're purchasing in-game content, you are buying the currency, not the content. Legally, that's structured in a way for the company to be able to change things at their discretion without your permission. And that means that you have no claim over whatever funds are left in the game. If the currency we put in kept its associated value, like adding funds to PayPal, then you legally would still have claim to the remainder of the money that was still left on the account after the point of sale. What I hate most about this is the inevitable defense that I'm going to see not only from developers, but also from just people in the comment section or online in general, which is that all of this content and the digital currencies are completely voluntary to engage with. They are optional. You do not need them. You don't have to have them. And most of these games, it's not even really necessary for the core experience anyway. It's just added bells and whistles or faster growth within a game. But what sucks about that is that it bars us from even being able to have the conversation on whether or not this stuff should even be allowed to exist or whether it's unethical or not, which it's pretty obvious that it is unethical once you start breaking it down and you look to see it's literally just taking money from us. I mean, it's plain as day. Look, I understand people wanting to fight against microtransactions or live service models. To be honest, I don't actually care about either one of them. I'm completely fine with it. I think that companies should try to monetize their games as much as they possibly can, but I think that those games need to be great. And I also think that those games need to be designed in a way in which they are not trying to take advantage of people. If you can make a great game that's not taking advantage of me, I'm going to want to throw money at you. It's simple. And that's the world I would rather live in. I would rather live in a world where games are constantly being worked on, pumped with tons of content, and I get to continually enjoy them. Not every game, obviously, that's different for each kind of experience, but you get what I'm saying. I want people to stop trying to fight against that stuff as much and fight against the things that are truly insidious. Look, there's already been fights won against loot boxes. If we attack these very specific areas of weakness, these places that we can see as this is a problem, and try to make it as easily translatable to somebody that doesn't understand the industry, then we can actually find some victory. I think this is something that we can fight against. Will you fight with me? Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, you can check out more videos on this channel. Subscribe button is in some places. I would appreciate the subscriptions. Plus, on top of that, comment down below. Join the Discord. I stream sometimes. I don't really actually have times. I just do it. I just turn it on, and it happens. So, anyway, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe, my friends, and peace.